God is not something outside of you. God is the fabric of your very being. You've been praying to something that may not exist in the way you think it does. You talk to it in your head. You whisper to it when no one is around. You reach for it when life feels heavy. But here is the uncomfortable part. You might not be speaking to a person at all. Pause for a moment. Stay with that. Because if you walk away now, you may never realize the most important thing about the idea that shaped your entire life. And if you only half hear this, you might keep searching for something that was never separate from you in the first place. Notice your breath. Notice the tension in your chest. Notice the quiet feeling that something here matters. Now imagine this. What if you've misunderstood reality itself? I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about belief systems. I'm not even talking about philosophy. I'm talking about the story in your mind. The story that says there is someone out there watching you, judging you, approving of you, protecting you. And here is the question I want you to hold. Is God a person or just a story you were taught to believe? Don't answer yet. Just let the question echo inside you. Because the truth is rarely found in the first reaction. It shows up in the silence that follows. This is where most people misunderstand. They rush to protect the symbol, the Father in the sky, the keeper of order, the voice of authority, the invisible witness. But what if the symbol was never meant to be the thing itself? What if the symbol was only a mirror? And what if the one looking into that mirror was you? Take another slow breath, because what we're talking about here touches the deepest layer of your identity. You were taught that there is something above you, beyond you, separate from you, something greater. But what if reality is not based on reward? What if reality simply reflects, not morally, not as judgment, but as resonance? Meaning, your experience aligns with your inner state, not because someone is grading you, but because existence is made of awareness interacting with itself. And awareness is not trapped inside your brain. Your brain happens inside awareness. Awareness is the field, the space, the foundation, not a personality, not a character, not an authority, something deeper. And that field is conscious, not like a person sitting somewhere making choices, but as the very substance of reality itself. This is where the discomfort grows, because if the source of existence is not a being, then everything changes. This is where many people misunderstand. They try to shrink the infinite into something human. They imagine opinions, moods, approval, punishment, but the infinite does not need to approve of you. It already is you. Not your name, not your history, not your mask, but the awareness behind it all. And when awareness looks through your eyes, it forgets. Not as failure, not as mistake, as intention. Because to experience life fully, awareness must temporarily forget that it is infinite. So it narrows its focus, it becomes you, right here, right now. And in the narrowing, a story begins. The story of your identity, your past, your struggles, your hopes, and then the story of God. Now pause, because the question appears again. If everything happens inside awareness, then is God inside the story? Or is the story happening inside what you call God? Sit with that. You were trained to look outward, to look upward, to reach beyond yourself. But what if the direction was always inward? What if the only place you can ever meet the source of existence is inside your own awareness? I am not here to tell you what to believe. I am simply inviting you to notice something. Every idea you've ever had about the divine was filtered through your nervous system, through your fears, your hopes, your need for meaning. And because humans long to belong, you created stories. Stories that explain why you're here. Stories that make suffering feel meaningful. Stories that make the unknown less terrifying. But what if meaning does not come from being watched? What if meaning comes from being aware, from participating in existence, from simply experiencing life, right now, in this moment? Listen closely, because this next idea can shake the foundation of your conditioning. Suffering is not punishment. Suffering happens when the story you tell about yourself is out of alignment with what you truly are. And the greater the gap, the stronger the pain, not because someone is angry at you, but because resistance is heavy, and resistance hurts. Now notice something important. You are still here, listening, feeling, questioning. Why? Because some part of you recognizes something familiar, not logically, emotionally, like remembering something you once knew but haven't thought about in years. This is where many people misunderstand. They think awakening means adding new spiritual beliefs. But what if awakening is the opposite? What if it means subtracting the layers until only awareness remains? And when awareness remains, hierarchy dissolves. You no longer place yourself below some distant authority. You recognize you were never separate, not because you were special, not because you earned it, but because separation was never structurally possible. Existence includes everything, including you, always. Now let's step deeper, because there is another layer to this. If awareness is the field, then what you call you is only one version, not metaphorical, literal. There are parallel expressions of you, each one valid, each one real, each one existing as a different angle within the field. And the version you experience matches your state of being, not as reward, not as lesson, but as reflection. And when your state shifts, your world shifts with it. Not because it changes to please you, but because you align with a different expression of reality that already existed all along. This is where many people misunderstand. They try to change the mirror, without realizing that the mirror can only reflect the one looking into it. And here is something subtle happening on this planet right now. Quietly, softly. People are beginning to sense that reality is not what they were taught. They feel that consciousness is more than a side effect of the brain. They feel that identity is deeper than the body. They feel that the source of life is not separate, a silent awakening, not in temples, not in speeches, in everyday awareness, in ordinary moments, in you. Now, but before we go further, I want you to write something in the comments, not as a slogan, as identity. Write, "I am the awareness watching the story." Because when you say that, something shifts, even if just a little. You begin to sense that what you truly are is not the story, but the one witnessing it. And this is where everything begins to change. Not by escaping your humanity, not by rejecting your emotions, but by recognizing that awareness includes it all. Your doubt, your confusion, your curiosity, your longing. Nothing is outside of it, and when nothing is outside, judgment dissolves. What remains is reflection. Now breathe, because we are moving toward the core question. Is God a person? Is God a story? Or is God the awareness dreaming the person and writing the story all at once? And if that's true, then the one you've been searching for has been searching through you this entire time, not to control you, but to experience existence from the inside, through your eyes, through your heart, through your life, and that realization that changes everything. You've probably noticed something by now. The more we talk about awareness, the quieter your mind becomes. Not silent, not empty, just slower. Like the noise steps back a little and something deeper steps forward. But here's the strange part. The you that notices the quiet is not the same you that lives inside the story of your life. One part of you worries about the future. One part replays the past. One part questions everything you hear. But the one who notices all of that either does not change, it doesn't age, it doesn't panic, it doesn't argue, it simply witnesses. And that witness may be closer to what people have always meant when they spoke about the divine. Not a ruler, not an authority, but awareness itself. Now listen carefully, because this is where confusion usually appears. Humans like certainty. We want definitions, borders, clear answers. We want to know who is in charge, what do they want, what are the rules. But awareness doesn't behave like that. It doesn't issue commands. It doesn't give orders. It doesn't need loyalty. It simply expresses itself as existence. And existence explores itself through form, through worlds, through bodies, through lives, including yours. But when that exploration happens, something else also happens. Forgetting. Awareness forgets itself so it can experience being human. Not partially, fully. That means it feels doubt. It feels fear. It feels separation. Not because separation is real in an ultimate sense, but because the experience of believing it is real creates contrast. And through contrast, life becomes meaningful. Now think about this. If awareness remembered it was infinite while living as you, how could it ever fully feel loss? How could it fully feel love or risk? or devotion. It couldn't. So it forgets. It becomes the character. It becomes the story. And the story feels real. So real that you begin to ask, where did I come from? Why am I here? Who made all this? And because your mind needs a figure to attach meaning to, you imagine a person at the center of existence, a cosmic parent, someone to talk to, someone to rely on, someone to fear, someone to love. And there is nothing wrong with that. Symbols help. Stories help. They hold your hand when uncertainty feels too big. But the symbol is not the source. The story is not the field. And when the symbol becomes literal, you begin to forget the truth even more deeply. You start to believe that the source of existence is separate from you. You imagine distance, you imagine authority, and with authority comes judgment, approval, disapproval, reward, punishment. But awareness doesn't judge, it reflects. It shows you yourself, not because you deserve it, but because there is nothing else it can do. It reflects your state of being through your experience of reality. And when your state is tangled, your world feels tangled. When your inner world resists itself, life feels heavy. And when you relax into coherence, things begin to open, not magically, not dramatically, naturally, because you're no longer fighting your own nature. Now listen carefully, because this is the place where most people misunderstand. They hear that reality reflects their state, and they start blaming themselves for every difficult thing that happens. But this isn't about blame. Blame belongs to the story. Reflection belongs to awareness. Life isn't punishing you, life isn't testing you, life is showing you where you are still arguing with yourself. And sometimes that argument runs so deep that you don't even know it's happening. You just feel the tension, the restlessness, the emptiness, the fear that something essential is missing. But what if nothing is missing? What if the only thing missing is your recognition of what you already are? Pause here. Notice your breath again. Notice that it moves on its own, without effort, without permission. Life is breathing you. You don't create awareness. You appear inside it. And awareness doesn't arrive. It was always here, even before you had a name, even before memory. Now let's go deeper, because to truly explore our question, we need to talk about identity, not personality. Identity. Who are you beneath your thoughts, beneath your emotions, beneath your history? Most people never look that far. They stop at the outer layer, their job, their family role, their struggles, their culture. But those aren't who you are. Those are costumes worn by awareness to experience this life from a particular angle. And that angle is temporary. Awareness is not. Now here's where things become even more interesting. There is not just one angle. There are countless versions of you, each one exploring a different timeline, a different expression, a different way of being, all valid, all real within the field, and your conscious experience tunes into one of these versions at a time, like a radio. When your state shifts, you tune into a slightly different expression, and reality appears to change, not because the world obeys you, but because you are now resonating with a different strand of possibility. This isn't fantasy, this is awareness experiencing itself through variation. And variation is endless. Now, pause again, because what I'm about to say needs to land slowly. There is one field, one awareness, endlessly expressing itself, and every expression is part of the same whole. That means you are not a fragment. You are not broken off. You are not on the outside looking in. You are the field looking out through human eyes. And when you begin to realize that your relationship with the idea of God begins to dissolve and reform into something quieter, something calmer, less dramatic, more intimate, it becomes less about worship and more about recognition, less about asking and more about listening. Because the source isn't out there. The source is the awareness that is hearing these words right now. Now, there is something important I need to say here. What we are exploring is still not the deepest part. There is something ahead that completes this picture, and if you only hear what we've covered so far, you may walk away with a distorted idea. So stay with this. Let's keep going, because there is another piece that changes everything. Humans carry a deep wound, a fear of being alone in the universe. So you search for a protector, a guide, a ruler, a creator, someone who knows more than you do, someone who holds the plan. And while that story can feel comforting, it also reinforces separation. It says you are small, you are dependent, you are incomplete. And the more you believe that, the more you ignore awareness itself. But awareness has no hierarchy. It doesn't place one being above another. It doesn't measure worth. It simply expresses. And each expression is unique, just like every wave in the ocean is unique. But still ocean. You are a wave, but you are also the water. And the water does not belong to the wave. The wave belongs to the water. Now notice something else. There is a quiet shift happening around the world. People are starting to sense that the stories they were given do not fully explain reality, not just spiritually, existentially. They feel there is something deeper beneath the surface of life, something shared, something universal, something wordless. And because this shift is quiet, many never talk about it. They simply begin to observe life differently, with more curiosity, more awareness, less certainty. This is not about movements, not about communities. It is personal, internal, silent, and you might be part of it. Now, I want to invite you into another moment of reflection. If you feel something waking up inside you while listening to this, write in the comments, I am remembering what I am, not as performance, as recognition. Because when you say those words, you bring awareness to the witness, and the witness is the doorway back to the field. Now let's return to our question. Is God a person, or is God a story? Or is God awareness itself, appearing as stories so it can feel what it's like to forget? Think of it this way. When you dream at night, you create entire worlds, characters, landscapes, situations, but when you wake up, you realize that every character was made of your own mind. Even the ones who spoke to you, even the ones who terrified you, even the ones you loved, they were all you. Now imagine this on a much larger scale. Awareness isn't dreaming you by accident. It's exploring experience intentionally. And you are one of those experiences. You are not inside a universe built by someone else. You are inside awareness dreaming itself. And that dream feels real. Because it is real. Experience is real. Emotion is real. Perception is real. But the identity you assume inside the dream is temporary. The awareness behind it is not. Now listen carefully, because this may be the most subtle truth of all so far. You are not meant to destroy the story. The story is beautiful. The story allows you to live, to love, to grieve, to grow. The point is not to reject the human journey. The point is to remember what you are while you are in it. To live as awareness, fully embracing the experience of being human. Not separate, not superior, present, grounded, here. And when you begin to live like that, fear loosens. Not disappears completely, but loosens. Because you sense that whatever happens inside the story, you, as awareness, remain whole. And that knowing creates a quiet strength. The strength to face yourself, to tell the truth, to stop pretending. Because there is nothing left to protect. Awareness cannot be harmed. Only identity can. And identity is woven from thought. Beautiful, necessary, but temporary. Now pause one last time. Feel into this moment. Notice the room around you. Notice your body. Notice your breath. All of this is happening inside awareness, and awareness is listening through you. And if that's true, then the idea of a distant God starts to dissolve, not into nothingness, but into intimacy, into presence, into the simple fact that existence is aware, and you are that awareness looking back at itself. And yet, our journey is still not complete. There is a final layer that changes the meaning of everything we've said. It is not time to reveal it yet, but when we get there, you may feel something shift in a way that words can barely describe. So stay with this. Breathe, and remember, you are not the story. You are the awareness watching the story unfold. And awareness was never separate. Something strange happens when you begin to sense that awareness is the true foundation of existence. You don't suddenly become peaceful. You don't suddenly feel enlightened. You don't suddenly float above your problems. Instead, life sometimes becomes even more intense. Because the story doesn't disappear. The relationships still matter. The body still aches. The heart still longs. But now, something inside you begins to notice the one who is aware of all of it. A listening presence. Still, clear, silent. And that silence is not empty. It feels full, alive, present, as if the space itself is awake. And you begin to realize something profound. Awareness is not a visitor in your life. Awareness is the ground your life is happening on. Everything else comes and goes, but awareness remains. Now, this realization sounds peaceful, but it also brings up an important question. If awareness is the true foundation, then who are you? Are you the character in the story? Or are you the awareness behind the character? And if awareness is what people once meant when they spoke of the divine, then the idea of a person in the sky starts to feel small, not wrong, not foolish, just symbolic, a pointer, a metaphor, a way to express something that cannot be contained by language. And yet, most of humanity took the symbol literally. We built structures around it, rules, institutions, authority. We created communities with shared stories, and sometimes those stories guided us into compassion. Sometimes they guided us into fear. But beneath all stories, the same field remains, the same intelligence, the same awareness, the same mystery. Now listen carefully, because what I'm about to say is the second time I'll warn you. The most essential understanding still hasn't arrived yet. It comes later. And if you leave before we get there, you may think you understand what this means, but you will almost certainly bend it back into the same old story. So stay. Let yourself sink deeper, because what comes next changes not just how you see God, but how you see yourself. Let's look at something simple. Right now you are hearing these words, maybe through headphones, maybe through a speaker, maybe late at night or early in the morning. But underneath the listening, there is a quiet question. Who is the one hearing this? Not your name. Names are labels, not your thoughts. Thoughts are movements, not your emotions. Emotions are waves. Who is aware of all of that? Who notices thought? Who feels emotion? Who hears sound? That one cannot be touched, cannot be measured. It is not inside the body. The body is inside it. And when you begin to sense that, you begin to loosen your grip on identity, not in a way that makes you detached, but in a way that makes you softer, more open, more compassionate. Because when the illusion of separation fades, judgment loses its power. How could you judge another when the same awareness looks through their eyes as well? Different personality, different conditioning, same source. Now, there is another layer, and this one touches the deepest human fear, the fear of death. Most people believe that awareness depends on the body, so when the body stops, awareness ends. And that belief creates a quiet panic beneath the surface of life. It shapes your choices, your relationships, your ambitions. But what if awareness does not belong to the body? What if the body belongs to awareness? Like a character in a dream belongs to the dreamer. When the dream ends, does the dreamer end? No, the dream dissolves. The dreamer remains. And so perhaps, when the story of your life ends, awareness remains. Not as your personality, not as your memories, but as the same field that has always been here. Complete, silent, present. Somewhere inside you, this idea may not feel foreign. It may feel strangely familiar, as if a quiet memory is being stirred. Not a memory of events, a memory of being, of existing before the story formed. And that brings us closer to something that matters deeply here. You are not meant to escape your humanity. Humanity is not a mistake. It is a deliberate expression of awareness exploring itself. Every tear, every laugh, every heartbreak, sacred, not because someone declared it so, but because existence itself is expressing through you. And because of that, you belong. Not conditionally, not temporarily, always. That sense of belonging does not come from a temple, or a belief system, or a book. It comes from the realization that you were never separate from the source of life, not even for a moment. Now, there is something happening in the world right now. Quietly, softly, people from every culture are starting to sense the same truth, not through doctrine, not through ideology, through direct inner experience, a gentle recognition that awareness is primary, that reality is not only matter, not only chemistry, not only mechanics. Something deeper moves beneath it, and that something has no name. Humans try to name it anyway. They call it presence, source, the infinite, the one, the field. But all these words point to the same silent truth. The essence of existence is aware, and you are not separate from it. You are it, filtered through a human life. Now pause for a moment. Feel into that. Let the idea breathe inside you, because this realization does not come through thinking. It comes through quiet recognition, through stillness, through listening inward. And that listening takes you beyond belief. Belief belongs to the mind. Recognition belongs to awareness. Now, let's return to our original question. Is God a person or just a story? Or is God the awareness dreaming both the person and the story, and experiencing itself through every possible form? If so, then the idea of a separate creator watching you from outside begins to fade, and what replaces it is far more intimate. Existence is not watching you, existence is being you, right now, in this breath, in this moment, in every sensation of your body, in every sound you hear, in every thought that rises and falls. Life is not happening to you. Life is happening as you, and that realization does not make you special. Everyone is this. Most simply don't remember, not because they are unwilling, but because forgetting is part of the design. If you remembered too early, you would not fully experience being human, and being human is a sacred expression of awareness. So awareness forgets, and remembers, and forgets again, over lifetimes, over worlds, over endless cycles of experience, each one unique, each one valid, each one precious. Now, I want to invite you into another small act of recognition. If this message resonates with something deep within you, write in the comments, "I am not separate," not as philosophy, as identity, as truth recognized in silence. Because when you say those words, a door opens inside, not during the video, in your life, in the way you walk through the world, in the way you speak to others, in the way you hold yourself. You begin to sense that every person you meet is another face of the same awareness, playing a different role in the same grand story. And that realization naturally softens you. It doesn't make you passive, it makes you real, rooted, present, alive. Because when fear loosens its grip, you finally have space to simply exist, to breathe, to feel, to be, without constantly trying to prove something, without constantly trying to earn your place here. Your place was never in question. Existence invited you here, and awareness is living through you. Now, remember earlier when I said the most essential understanding still hadn't arrived? We are getting close now, close to the truth that sits behind everything you've heard. And when we reach it, there will be no logical proof, only recognition. A silent yes, a feeling of course. But we are not there yet. Because first, we need to remove one last layer, the layer of control. Most people believe that life is something to dominate. We strive, we grasp, we push. We try desperately to shape the world into what we think it should be, and when it doesn't cooperate, we suffer. But control belongs to the story. Awareness does not control. It allows, it holds, it experiences. And when you begin to live from awareness rather than fear, your relationship with life changes. You don't become passive, you become responsive instead of reactive. You move with life rather than against it. And in that movement you begin to sense coherence. Not forced, not mechanical, natural, like a tide rising and falling, like breath coming and going. And in that rhythm, you begin to trust, not in a person, not in a doctrine, in existence itself, because existence has never abandoned you. It cannot. You are within it, always. Now, breathe. Let these words sink in where thinking cannot reach. And know this, you do not need to solve the mystery. You only need to live inside it with awareness, to feel the sacredness of simply being alive, to recognize that the field of awareness, the source of everything, is not far away. It is the one listening right now, through your heart, through your mind, through your life. And as this recognition grows, the question, is God a person or a story, begins to dissolve. Because the answer is not a sentence. The answer is an experience of belonging so deep that separation becomes impossible. An experience of silence so complete that it holds all sound. An experience of awareness waking up to itself through you. And when that happens, there is no need to replace one belief with another. There is only presence, only life, only this moment and appearing within awareness, as awareness forever. There comes a moment on this path that cannot really be described. It isn't dramatic. It isn't mystical. It doesn't arrive with bright lights or divine voices or cosmic revelations. It comes like a quiet breath, like the soft turning of a page. You're simply sitting there, maybe listening to words like these, or watching the world move around you, or staring out a window at nothing in particular, and suddenly you sense it, not as a thought, not as philosophy, as presence, a living stillness that has always been here beneath the noise, beneath the stories, beneath the search. And in that stillness, something inside you whispers, "Oh, it was here the whole time. Not far away, not separate, not unreachable. Here, closer than thought, closer than emotion, closer than the beating of your own heart." And you realize something so simple that it almost feels absurd. You have never been outside of awareness, not for 1 second. You have been moving inside it like a wave moves inside the ocean. And the wave spent its whole life trying to find the ocean, without realizing that every rise and every fall was already made of water. This realization is not loud. It's peaceful, humble, grounded. It doesn't say, "I am powerful." It says, "I am part of everything." And that sense of belonging softens you in ways no belief ever could, because beliefs live in the mind, but belonging lives in the heart. And when the heart remembers that awareness is the true foundation, you stop standing outside your own life judging every moment. You step in, fully, present, alive, aware. Now, let's return one last time to the idea we began with. Is God a person, or just a story? Or is God the field of awareness inside which every story unfolds, including the idea of God itself? If that's true, then the image of a distant authority collapses gently into something far more intimate. God is not watching you. God is experiencing life through you, through your laughter, through your tears, through your confusion, through your longing, through your simple act of existing. And that means something profound. You are not separate from the sacred. You never were. Not because you've earned it, not because you're special, but because existence does not produce anything that is not already part of itself, including you. Now listen closely, because I need to say something important. This is the third time I will say it. The most essential understanding arrives at the end. If you leave before the final moments, you may believe you've heard the truth, but you will only have heard a doorway into it. The truth itself can only be known in silence. So stay with me. Breathe, feel. Let the words sink beneath the surface, because what comes next is not another idea. It is a remembering. Let's look at your life for a moment. All the choices, all the turns, all the people who came and went, all the chapters you thought would last forever but didn't. Sometimes you suffered, sometimes you loved, sometimes you broke apart inside so deeply that you thought you might never return. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still aware, still capable of feeling and questioning and wondering. And awareness never left. Through every high, through every low, through every failure, through every joy, awareness remained, silent, patient, open, never condemning you, never praising you, simply being. And in that being, you were allowed to become who you needed to become in each moment, not because someone judged your worth, but because awareness holds everything that arises within it. Nothing rejected, nothing exiled, nothing unworthy. Even the parts of you that you wish weren't there are accepted by the field itself. And that realization changes the way you treat yourself. You begin to meet your own pain with the same openness that awareness shows to all experience, not pushing it away, not drowning in it, just allowing it to exist inside a larger space of presence. And inside that space, healing does not feel like a mission. It feels like remembering that nothing needs to be thrown away for you to be whole, because you already are. Now remember when we spoke about the silent shift happening across the world, that quiet awakening that doesn't belong to any movement, any teacher, any belief system? That awakening is simply awareness, remembering itself, slowly, gently, through millions of human lives. And most of the time it goes unnoticed. People don't announce it. They don't try to convert others. They just begin to live with more depth, more presence, more compassion, not because it's moral, but because it feels natural when separation loosens. They look into the eyes of another person and sense that the same awareness is looking back. And in that moment, something ancient and wordless passes between them. I recognize you, not your name, not your story. You. And that recognition is the real meaning of love. Not attachment, not dependency, not fantasy. Recognition, awareness, seeing itself through another form. Now pause for a moment. Let that settle. Because what we are circling now is not intellectual. It is foundational. It is the essence beneath every religion, every philosophy, every spiritual path that has ever existed. Not the beliefs, the experience of being aware and realizing that awareness itself is the mystery people once called God, not as a person, as presence, as the field of existence from which nothing is excluded, not even your doubts, not even your questioning, not even your resistance. Everything belongs. And when everything belongs, life becomes less of a test and more of an unfolding. You no longer feel like a stranger in your own existence. You realize you were always home, even when it didn't feel like it. Now, before we move into the final stretch, I want to invite you into one last identity-based reflection. If what you've heard has awakened even a small sense of recognition in you, write in the comments, "I am awareness, living as myself." Say it slowly. Feel it, not as a belief, as truth remembered in silence. Because that sentence doesn't inflate the ego, it dissolves it. It doesn't say, "I am superior." It says, "I am part of everything." And that recognition is the beginning of real humility. Not the kind that shrinks you, the kind that allows you to stand in your life fully present without apology. Now, we arrive gently at the edge of language, the place where words begin to run out, where the mind can no longer follow, where only awareness remains. And here is the simple truth we have been moving toward this entire time. The one you have been searching for is the one who is searching. The listener, the watcher, the silent presence behind your eyes. That is the essence of divinity, not distant, not separate. Here, always. And that realization is not the end of anything. It is the beginning of a different way of living, a life lived from presence, from awareness, from connection, not as a concept, as an ongoing, ever-unfolding mystery. A mystery that continues long after this video ends, because there is no final conclusion, no last answer, no ultimate belief. There is only ever-deepening recognition, ever-deepening presence, ever-deepening belonging. So as we come to the final moments together, do not close the door. Do not turn this into another belief, another story, another identity for the mind to cling to. Let it remain fluid, alive, unfixed, like the breath, like the sea, like awareness itself. And when the video fades, notice that awareness does not fade with it. It remains, listening, watching, being, through you, as you, always. And maybe, just maybe, that is what people were really trying to say all along when they asked, is God a person or something more? Maybe the answer was never meant to be spoken. Maybe it was meant to be felt, right here, in this silent, infinite living presence. The presence that you are. And so, we don't end here. We simply continue.